Nobody works as hard as the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll tell you that right now. I say that, not only do we have to strain physically, but it's a mental strain. It's a mental grind. And that's what I try to tell the rookies, to obviously not overwhelm themselves. Just try to find a way to fall in love with the grind, fall in love with the process.
Hey, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome into another camp episode of The Breakdown. I'm Matt McMullen, and in today's show, we're going to look back through the first real week of training camp as the Chiefs prepare for the upcoming season. Believe it or not, the season opener against Houston is coming up in about 3 weeks, and after just about the strangest offseason in NFL history, this past week was all about getting back into football shape. But before we dive into this, let's go over a few quick injury updates. Sammy Watkins, Frank Clark, Chris Jones, Eric Fisher, and Ricky Seals-Jones all missed some time this week and were not at practice as of Thursday. We'll keep an eye on each of those guys moving forward, and something else worth watching is that Tyreek Hill and Alex Okafor each left Thursday's practice early. Hill left with a hamstring injury, and Okafor had a calf injury, but no other information was readily available at the time. We'll hopefully have an update on those guys here in the days to come, but there was some good news on the injury front at practice this week as Juan Thornhill returned to practice in a limited capacity. Consider this. Thornhill tore his ACL in Week 17, and just 8 months later, he was out there in pads participating in individual drills. He's not all the way back, he didn't do any team stuff, but it's still a great sign for one of the top rookies in all of football last season. The Chiefs allowed the third lowest passer rating on throws of 20 or more yards in the NFL last year, and Thornhill was a big reason why. Alright, now that we're through the injuries, let's run through the practice schedule and what the guys have been up to out on the field over the past week. The guys were in pads for the first time in 6 months last Friday, kicking off a stretch of 3 straight days in pads. They had a lighter practice on Monday, a player's day off on Tuesday, and then kicked off a stretch of 5 padded practices in 6 days on Wednesday. We're right in the middle of that right now, and if you ask me, this is probably the toughest stretch of camp. It's both physically and mentally demanding, and with so little time to really prepare, attacking this time with the proper mindset and focus is critical, and these guys were ready for it. Here's what Tyrann Mathieu had to say about powering through this period of camp head on.
Nobody works as hard as the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll tell you that right now. I say that in a good way. We strain a lot. It's a lot that's on our plate. A lot of our playbook is already in. A lot of those calls are up. So, not only do we have to strain physically, but it's a mental strain. It's a mental grind. And that's what I try to tell the rookies, to obviously not overwhelm themselves. Just try to find a way to fall in love with the grind, fall in love with the process. I think our coaches do a great job of not putting too much pressure on us, allowing us to go out there, with less on our mental, so that way we are able to physically strain ourselves each and every play. But it's my third organization. I don't think anybody works as hard as Andy Reid.
I'd have to agree with that. Absolutely nobody works harder at their craft than Coach Reid. And speaking of Coach, earlier this week, he talked about the importance of practicing fast each and every day throughout this camp.
Normally, if guys practice fast, they normally stay relatively healthy. I mean, it's when somebody's not doing that, and then somebody trips over somebody, falls down, and then you got a problem. That over the years, you see those things happen. So it's important that the guys are moving and trying to move at the same speed. And then it gets you prepared. We don't condition after practice. That's not what we're doing. We're not lining up and running sprints. So I ask them, listen, condition during practice. We'll keep you watered down, so we're not playing, the no water game. We try to keep them hydrated and ready to go. But we know in games you got to be ready. No more important than this year. I mean, you got to go into a game and without any pregame or a preseason game. So you got to keep your tempo up and get yourself sharp. And the guys believe that. So they fly around, they remind each other, which is important. And so the coaches don't really have to do it. The players can give each other a heads up on, let's go. I mean, it's time to roll. You're a little tired. Let's go.
I think Reid's philosophy on conditioning is really interesting. These guys aren't wasting time running gassers. They're conditioning with football movements, which really makes a lot of sense, and particularly when you're dealing with a limited preparation window. One guy who's always practicing fast is Patrick Mahomes, who has truly been putting on a show throughout training camp. On multiple occasions, we've seen Patrick take the snap, turn completely around to evade the pressure, run full speed to his left, and fire a bullet deep downfield. There was one on Wednesday that was particularly ridiculous that you can go watch on the Chiefs Twitter page. It's insane. Patrick's combination of generational athletic ability combined with his killer instincts on the field are what make him so special. But he's not just showing off out there. This is the time to figure out what works and what doesn't.
I think the great thing about training camp practices and practices with Coach Reed is he allows me to try those different things. And as you've kind of seen camp go, there's been times where I've made some of these throws and they've worked out and we scored touchdowns. And then I threw one day and it was like a easy interception. So he lets you try those different things and you just learn from them, see what you can and can't do. And it helps me to being in the game. When I get there, I know what I can do and what I can't.
Mitchell Schwartz spoke about that same idea a little later in the week. As much as we hear about execution and perfecting technique, camp is also the time to fail as you figure out what you can get away with on game day. Another guy who's figuring those things out is rookie tailback Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's been running with the first team at running back throughout camp. There was some serious hype surrounding Edwards-Helaire out of college, and for good reason. This dude was a beast on the ground for LSU last year. But what excites me most is his pass-catching ability. He caught 55 passes last season and averaged more than 8 yards a catch. So think about this. The Chiefs have multiple vertical threats who can stretch the field. And with a guy like Edwards-Helaire available out of the backfield, I truly don't know how defenses are going to slow down the Chiefs this season. It's really exciting, but he has to put it together in camp first, and one thing he's relying on so far is his vision as a runner. He spoke about that earlier this week.
I mean, I was told at an early age, might have been 6 or 7, the one thing you can't teach is eyes. And, you know, I can't sit here and say, oh, this is what makes me different, or this is what makes everybody, every set of eyes sees things differently. So as far as what I see when I'm running the ball, the things that I see in a route, that's just kind of my mind doing its own thing and making its adjustments just off of, leverage and understanding the concept of the play calls.
And speaking of Edwards-Helaire, it turns out we're not the only ones impressed with Patrick Mahomes' big plays so far in camp. He's pretty much in awe as well.
I had an interview yesterday, and I was talking about Pat rolling out to his left. And, I mean, the play just looked completely shut down. And he just started, by the time he got to the bottom of the numbers on the left hash, he just started saying, oh, I got it. And nobody looked open, and he tossed it up, and all of a sudden Tyreek came out of nowhere and completed a pass, and it went for 45 yards, whatever it was, and extended play, something that that you see time and time again. But for him to not throw it out of bounds and just understand, and his vision and everything that he has going on in his head, it's a little different. It's a little special.
I mean, how can you not get excited just listening to that? Here's one of the best players in all of college football last year, a national champion, and he cannot believe what he's seeing. It's special, it's unique, and we're lucky to have guys like Patrick and Clyde in the kingdom, but it goes beyond just the big plays. One thing that's going to separate the successful teams from the rest, this season more than ever, is leadership. It sounds cliche, but it's real, and with only 2 years as a starter under his belt, Patrick Mahomes has established himself as the undisputed leader of this team. Backup quarterback Chad Henne spoke about that this week and how he's seen Patrick grow as a leader.
For Patrick, I mean, it's going out there and being the best leader you can be. I think he's improved on that tremendously, even from the day one since I've been here. Really getting hold of the guys, preaching to them what this offense is all about, what he wants from them, what they need from him. And, I mean, he's the ultimate teammate. We heard it previously, he's a competitor each and every day. He's out there trying to beat our defense left and right. And, it's just his mindset. Each and every day he's out there to win and to be the best leader for this team and win for this organization. So he's definitely improved on that year in, year out and has done a phenomenal job there.
I feel like I say this on a weekly basis now, but I think it's really important to appreciate what Chad just said. Not only is Patrick Mahomes the best player in the NFL, not only is he the reigning Super Bowl MVP, and not only is he on the fast track to being one of the best players ever to play in this league, he is the ultimate teammate. He's the ultimate leader who's working every single day to get the best out of the guys next to him. I'm not calling Patrick Mahomes Michael Jordan just yet, even though I think he has a chance at building a legacy like that, but if you watch The Last Dance, there are some real similarities here between Jordan and Mahomes and how they attack every day. And if you're a Chiefs fan, that's pretty exciting. All right, let's talk a little defense now before wrapping up today's show. I've been a broken record on our training camp live shows about this, but this defense does not get nearly enough respect. It was the best unit in the NFL when it mattered most last season, allowing a league-low 11 points per game over their final 6 regular season contests. And it wasn't by accident. This was a new defensive coaching staff and really a reshaped group of starters that were just learning to play with one another, and once they settled in, well, the results speak for themselves. Alex Okafor spoke about that earlier in the week.
That has to do with just learning and developing in the scheme. Whenever you teach a scheme, whenever you install a scheme, there's a bunch of X's and O's, and there's a blackboard way of doing it. And everybody just memorizes that blackboard way of doing it. But whenever you take that next step as a defense, you learn the caveats of the defense. So you learn what this defense is susceptible to. You learn the proper technique within this scheme. And I think that's what we started to do further down the line. And I think we all learned how to really work within the scheme, and that's how we took the next step.
So now the challenge will be carrying that foundation into this season, and at least so far, these guys look fast and really good in practice. So that's a great sign, and for the guys who weren't around last year, specifically this rookie class, it can't hurt to practice against the best offense in the league every single day. Willie Gay Jr. talked about that this week.
Well, we don't have a lot of time right now to the first game. Everybody knows that, but we just got to take every day. And as rookies, we picking up on it fast. I mean, sometimes it's rough. We like, okay, we pros now, so it won't be as long until the game comes, and it's not as easy no more. So, but we got an advantage over here in Kansas City when you're playing against the offense like ours, man. In practice, like you see some crazy stuff, So like when you see that, it's like, okay, I know everybody in the league can't do what this guy's doing at quarterback or running back or receiver, so it's definitely making us a lot better.
The analogy I used on one of our training camp live shows was that it's kind of like shooting a weighted basketball. I guarantee these rookies will not face anybody quite as prolific as Patrick Mahomes during the regular season, so the hope is that these practices throughout camp will make things feel just a tick slower when we get to the real thing here in just a few weeks. Well, that's it for this one, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in, and be sure to catch our training camp live shows on YouTube and Facebook over the next couple weeks. I'll be back with another podcast next week as well to review the week that was at Chiefs Camp. Until then, this is Matt McMullen signing off.